Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure. I heard Ryan say that quite loud. It's a pleasure to be here this morning and representing William C. Smith and Company and all the staff to celebrate the completion, the substantial completion of Archer Park, 190 units. Thank you. So 190 units, all affordable housing, new construction. My name is Pam Askew, and I thank you for all being here. My first speaker really needs no introduction. I'm thankful she's here today. But if I may, just remind everyone, she was here 2 years ago. We had a ribbon of groundbreaking, and rather than get some shovels and move some dirt, she actually poured the concrete foundation for this building. And so if you allow me to, get into the metaphor of that, there's a foundation to this building that you can't see, and it can't be built without it. And so with that, the district support through the Housing Production Trust Fund, through the employees and the district agencies, this building can't be built without that foundation. So we thank the mayor for her leadership and her support to affordable housing.
Well, good morning, Ward 8. It is great to be here and great to be here with all of you to celebrate the substantial completion of this very worthwhile housing opportunity right here in Ward 8. And it is seldom that you start something 2 years ago and it delivers on time. So let's give W.C. Smith a big round of applause. Let me thank Councilmember White for his great leadership in Ward 8, all the Ward 8 ANC commissioners and community activists who are here, who speak up and stand up and ensure that all of the development that's happening in Ward 8 enhances Ward 8, adds to the opportunities, and makes sure that all of our community members are experiencing safe and affordable housing and great economic opportunities. So thank you, Councilmember White. I want to recognize a number of members of my team who are here, who have had some hand in this project, along with the W.C. Smith companies, and they include our the Director of the Department of Housing and Community Development, Polly Donaldson, Todd Lee, who is the Executive Director of the D.C. Housing Finance Agency, Deborah Royster, who is the Director of the D.C. Department of Behavioral Health. Thank you, Dr. Royster. And a new member of our team, Tyrone Garrett, who is the Executive Director of the D.C. Housing Authority. Thank you for being here. So I want to say a couple of things about this project and really our challenge and opportunity to build affordable housing all across D.C. I think you all know that we made a commitment to double the district's commitment to the Housing Production Trust Fund back in 2013. And I'm proud to say that each of my budgets has done exactly that. Over $100 million in the Housing Production Trust Fund in 15, 16, and 17. And we're going to do it again in FY 2018. What that has done is it's gotten our bureaucracy a little more efficient. It could stand to be even more efficient, and we're going to work on that, right? But it's also gotten the private sector more efficient because it can count on that gap financing from the district. So it can, the private sector and all of our private sector partners can be ready to do more and more affordable housing development. In 4 years, we will create, preserve, or put in the pipeline 8,000 units of affordable housing across D.C. And we know in another 4 years, we can do 10,000 units of affordable housing across DC. This year, we have a new tool. It's called the Housing Preservation Fund that we seeded with $10 million. And we're asking all of our private sector partners to think about how we can leverage that $10 million for even more private sector investment in preserving units of affordable housing. The truth is, we have a lot of great affordable housing stock in Washington, D.C. And we, the property owners, the city, need to investigate ways to invest in those properties so that they can stay affordable for generations to come. So what we are celebrating here at Archer Park is a 190-unit affordable housing development on this wonderful 8-acre mixed-income community property. I'm very proud that in 2 years we have seen this come out of the ground and that we will see ourselves in this community welcoming new Ward 8 residents. It also puts a point on something that I have been talking about with Congresswoman Norton and a message that we want to send to the Congress of the United States. Right now, they are considering a tax reform bill. And sadly, the things that they are considering would negatively impact projects just like this one. There is a little known or little less discussed aspect of the bills that are circulating that would affect private activity bonds. And if the changes to private activity bonds that are proposed in the House's bill advance, it would mean that the low-income tax credits that are being used to support this project would virtually be eliminated. On some other projects where we have historic tax credits, they would be eliminated. On still other projects where we use industrial revenue bonds, the private sector does, to make it cheaper to borrow money, that would be impacted too. So with all that we do as a government, the federal government has had these tools that have attracted private sector investment. So just a couple of days ago with Congresswoman Norton, we called on the Congress to vote no to these changes to make sure that we can do our part and the private sector is incentivized to be our partners. We want more Archer Parks all over Washington, D.C., and we want more Archer Parks all over American cities so that everything that's happening in American cities would be allowed to flourish through public and private partnerships, just like this one. So I wanted to congratulate all involved, all the workers, the architects, the designers, the leasing agents for a job well done. Congratulations.
So as Mayor Bowser spoke about, this Archer Park development is about opportunities. And it's not just affordable housing opportunities, but it's about the jobs created for district residents through construction and property management. It's also about investing in small business enterprises, which we've done through construction and property management as well. And that's important to us as a company, and we hope that we're able to continue to do such great things with that. I say that to introduce my next speaker, Councilmember Trayon White, because I admire his community involvement and his advocacy and his leadership serving the Ward 8 residents. So thank you for coming.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. I want to say everything rises and falls on leadership. So I want to thank our Mayor, Muriel Bowser, for being committed to affordable housing right here in Washington, D.C. You can give her another round of applause. When I was parking, I was trying to figure out what was here before this beautiful edifice was here. And I remember it was some old buildings here before. I remember there was a police station here before. You remember that, Ms. Kim, Ms. Cutbirth? 7D was on this street. If you don't know nothing about that, you just got here. And then I've seen the renovations taking place in this community to the apartments across the street, to the 190 units right here for affordable housing. And I think that as we start thinking about housing, D.C. is becoming more and more expensive. So we have to be intentional about how we preserve affordable housing in the district, because we're seeing a great migration of people coming to east of the river just to find somewhere to live they can pay for and afford. And so while we're in the business of building buildings, we have to stay in the business of building people as well. Because what you may not know is just last night in the 3200 block of 12th Place, right behind this building, we had a young man suffer from gunshot wounds to his chest. While he survived, we have to put our emphasis not just building buildings, but building people, because it's people that live in these buildings. And so I want to thank William C. Smith, I see Rashawn here, because they have been committed to doing just that. We've partnered with them not just with building housing, beautiful place to live, but with ensuring young people. I joined their program this summer where they had young people, over 100 young people in the art, doing programming every day. Not in SYEP, but outside of SYEP, that they funded privately out of their own money. That's why public-private partnerships are very important, so we'll be going as the district. So give William C. Smith a round of applause. So in closing, I wanted to say we must keep our commitment to the residents of the district and keeping housing affordable, because we want to live here. My family wants to stay here, and this is just one of the projects we've seen in this community by this developer, this owner. William C. Smith owns about 70% of Ward 8. Come on, let's keep it real now. But I see Chris in the back. He just stuck his head. There you go, Chris, right there. And his team. But you're on the William C. Smith team. Raise your hand, please. All right, give them a round of applause, you all. So I want to thank you all for having me here this morning, but 190 units is very impressive, which you want to keep that going and keep it going here right here in Ward 8. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Council Member, and thank you for your service to Ward 8. My next speaker, Director Polly Donaldson, when I first met her as she started her position as being Director of DHCD, I sat with her to talk about developments in Ward 8. And what she came with was a pad of paper. And it seems insignificant, and I know I've told this story before, but what it tells me and what it told me then was she was there to listen, she was there to learn, she had humility, and she wanted to find out more about Ward 8. And I appreciated that. So today we're here, and we couldn't have been here without her and her staff and the Housing Production Trust Fund loan that this property received in order to build the property. And so I'm here to introduce Polly Donaldson, and thank you for the hard work that you've provided.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. I want to say, first off, thank you, Pam. That was a lovely introduction. And really, I'm delighted. Every day I get to wake up and come to Anacostia, to the corner of Martin Luther King and Good Hope Road, and in the heart of Ward 8, and say, how am I going to help Mayor Bowser achieve her vision for affordable housing here in the district? It's been a lifelong passion of mine, a passion since coming to the district over 30 years ago. And I just know that part of it takes the commitment, the vision, but also the resources. And that's my job, is to get the resources out the door from the Housing Production Trust Fund. To have $100 million each year is the floor. It's unprecedented across this country, and it is something that other cities are truly envious of, the leadership that our city has shown in that. And I mean the mayor and also the council member, your leadership, your participation on the Housing Committee is absolutely essential to ensuring that we're investing in the right kinds of housing programs as well. I also would be remiss if I didn't mention my fellow housing agency partners, Todd Lee, of course, from the Housing Finance Agency, Tyrone Garrett from DC Housing Authority. And then you may say, well, DPH isn't a housing agency. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is, as is the Department of Human Services, because we are working together. We consolidate our resources together to serve and to house our most vulnerable citizens in the homeless population. There will be 10 units of permanent supportive housing right here, integrated, yes. Integrated into the community with services provided by Community of Hope, with other neighborhood supports as well. What we know is that that works. It works to help families and our most vulnerable individuals move out of homelessness and stay out of homelessness. And it is by building and producing affordable housing that we are able to do that as a city. This is a mixed income project, which is very important to understand that what we want is economic diversity in our city, across our city, in all wards. There is not one place that affordable housing only goes. It's for all across all 8 wards, and we need to keep that in mind. I want to commend William C. Smith. I know many of the team are here. I have to say that by embracing as a mission-focused for-profit, they have embraced the vision of the mayor, the vision of DHCD, the vision that we have of being able to produce and preserve more affordable housing, and we can do it by being green. My understanding is that there are many features here, solar roofing, other energy efficiencies that are here that are embedded, baked into this affordable housing project, and that is being done across the city as well. So congratulations. I will say I'm very excited about the new preservation fund. The RFA is out on the streets right now for our fund manager. This fund will be active in FY18. It will be ready to go in the new year, the new calendar year, and we are ready to make that happen to bring even more resources towards affordable housing here in the district. Thank you all very much.
As the mayor mentioned, this type of housing cannot be financed without low-income housing tax credits, and with that comes tax-exempt bonds. So this project could not have been done without the participation and investment from the DC Housing Finance Agency. I'm thankful today we have the Executive Director, Todd Lee, here. I appreciate his innovation that he's bringing to the Housing Finance Agency and his dedicated staff that get these deals to the closing table. It takes a long time. It's very complicated, but your staff make it very easier to do, and we appreciate those efforts. So thank you, Todd.
Thank you. Oh, good morning. It is always a pleasure to share a podium with our mayor, Mayor Bowser. So good morning, and thank you for kicking this off. Councilmember White, yet again we meet in your ward, delivering on another project. I want to congratulate Chris, Brad, Pam, and the entire William C. Smith team for yet another housing project, but it's actually more than just a housing project. It brings more community-based assets to this neighborhood, and for that, I really, really need to congratulate you. I want to thank the entire DC HFA team for what it does every single day and the commitment that you show to make sure that we have adequate financing in our affordable housing and community development space. DCHFA is proud to be part of this public and private coalition that brought Archer Park to fruition. DCHFA issued $28 million in short-term obligations to make sure that this project was adequately capitalized. It also underwrote $19 million in low-income housing tax credit equity. So as Mayor Bowser talked about, as well as Councilmember White, we need private capital in order to make these projects happen, build and rebuild these communities. The District of Columbia has no problem attracting capital at all. You see it, every day. The brass and the brass and glass buildings downtown, the new office buildings, that happen. We have a very vibrant retail community as well. Part of what attracts private capital to our housing and community development space is the fact that we have a very committed city, that says we'll do our part. We will also invest in our communities alongside you, private investors, through, our investment using our trust fund, through DBH, through our housing authority investment in these projects. But also we attract capital because we have tools that provide, the yield that private investors need in order to, invest in these projects. Absolutely, they have a social mission, but at the end of the day, it's also about, does this make us an adequate return? This sign behind me is critically important. And I want to thank Mayor Bowser for her leadership, getting out front on Monday on the steps, literally, of the Capitol, to make our case. We need private activity bonds to make our city, to continue to make sure that our city grows, and it grows in an equitable fashion. Indirectly, we need our low-income housing tax credit program as well in order to make sure that our housing opportunities in our city, again, are equally distributed, across every single income band. It's just not enough, for us to invest our trust fund money and other local resources in order to make these deals happen. Quite frankly, the district nor any other city has enough. And so I want to thank Mayor Bowser for her leadership. I want to thank each and every one of you who've also taken up, this message as well. Those who have written letters, sent emails, called your, folks and colleagues on Capitol Hill as well as around the country, encouraging your colleagues to also, send a message up to the Hill. So I'll end with that. Thank you very much. Congratulations. And, I can't wait to, actually cut the ribbon. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lee. As you mentioned, once the tax-exempt bonds are issued, they are then purchased by a private lender. In this case, that's SunTrust Bank. It's not the first development that they've financed with William C. Smith, and it hopefully won't be the last one. It's been a pleasure working with them, and it's a pleasure working with a bank who's committed to investing in communities. And so today, I'd like to introduce you to Dan O'Neill.
Morning, and thank everybody for being here. And Mayor, thank you for your courage in matters related to housing, and Councilmember White, you as well. Thank you for being here. SunTrust is a purpose-driven company. We are very focused on lighting the way to financial well-being for all our citizens, regardless of their circumstances. And this year, SunTrust has financed over $500 million in affordable communities, just like this great building here at Archer Park. And great communities, as we've heard, are built and sustained through access and ready access to safe, quality, affordable housing. This outstanding development with 190 homes stands as a vibrant example of what can be accomplished when great leaders of vision and commitment, community leaders, leaders in the private sector, leaders in government, leaders in non-for-profits, when those people come together with passion and purpose to improve the lives of our citizens, a lot of special things can happen. So we are extraordinarily proud to be part of that. I want to say many thanks to Chris and Claire and the W.C. Smith team. What they're doing is just outstanding work, and we're very proud to be a part of it. As I drove in here today and looked at this building and a lot of other projects that have been financed in Ward 8, I said, you know what, this is great, but we need a dozen more of them. So let's do it again. Thanks.
And we hope to do just that. So about 15 years ago, I met my next speaker, Barry Lenore, and he was working here at the Trenton Terrace Apartments. And we walked every unit and we met with the residents. And what struck me was his concern for his residents, how he cared for them. And then he went on to be the president of United Black Fund, where he served as the steering committee chairperson of Sheridan Station. So I reported to him throughout the development of Sheridan Station where I was with district hires, with investments in small business enterprises and so forth, and I welcomed that accountability to Mr. Lenore. But I'm back here at the next site, and hopefully you're pleased. We've brought back some returning residents who've moved back to the property to see the new home that they're at. But I'd like to thank you for your commitment to the community and, as SunTrust mentioned, your passion and your energy to serve the residents of Ward 8.
Let me first give thanks to Almighty God who allowed us to step out today on a day of celebration. Believe me, if you had been here when I was here, you know what's worthy of celebrating. Thank you, Mayor, for your commitment to housing, not just affordable housing, housing for low-income families, housing for the homeless, housing for veterans. I mean, you are all over that. You set a model. Your program sets a model for the nation. Thank you, Councilmember White, You are a promise for the future of people in Ward 8. Let me tell you, they will stand on your shoulders, and your shoulders are big enough to help them stand. Thank you so much for your commitment to the people. And I have to tell you, I came here to acknowledge something, no, maybe even more than acknowledge, admit this, more than admission, to thank you, William C. Smith, for what you have accomplished here, not just here in this site, but all over the city. I had the first opportunity, as Pam said, to work with William C. Smith several years ago when we did the Sheridan Station Hope 6 project. Now an anchor project right by Martin Luther King and Good Hope Road by the Anacostia Metro. And let me tell you, we had a hard community group. We had a hard community task force. Let me tell you, and I think my NC Commissioner friends will recognize and remember that. We set so tough standards, some high standards. But lo and behold, William C. Smith met and exceeded most of those standards. We want so many jobs out of this project. Instead of 60, we got 78 in construction and permanent jobs, permanent employment. We said we want 35% local and minority contractors on this site. Instead of 35%, we got 48%. Every standard we set, they met or exceeded. I want to thank you, William C. Smith, for that experience. And I thought that experience, that project would really be the best project I could ever be associated with. But no, here I stand today at a place that has more personal meaning to me, because my office was down at 950 Mississippi Avenue for 14 years when this was a 100% assisted housing complex. At a time when policy execution overran policy desires and dreams. When people were concentrated here, piled almost one on top of the other, without any breathing room, with needs so great that no institution in the community could help but be overrun. So about 12 years ago, Chris Smith and Pam and some others and I walked this property, walked around the property. And every time we walked, almost block to block, Chris would come up with some kind of idea. Pam would say, well, you know, look at this possibility over here. So one thing they looked at as a park across the street, which at the time was overrun with weeds taller than I am, had a rundown baseball field on the corner, and an amphitheater that was loaded with the most troubled people in the world. And now look at it today. The first thing they did when they committed to this site was clear cut the brush and the weeds, establish and put a playground and a path and lights down in that park so people could use it with safety. And then they built this amazing baseball field down on the corner. Have you seen it? And kids are playing there now. Those facilities bring out community, help establish community. And I wouldn't be surprised one day if I rode down the street and heard a choir actually singing in the amphitheater, or see some kids performing. So that's for me, is the test for someone's commitment. And I know it's late in the day. And I did come up with something that expresses the character of this company as you go from one end of Oxer Run Park to the other. And you see the opportunity for communities to be planted, to grow, to flourish, for families to flourish, for kids to grow with space. And I came across a saying by a fellow I used to follow a lot. His name is Cesar Chavez. Anybody remember that name? Cesar Chavez said this: we cannot seek achievement for ourselves and forget about progress and prosperity for our community. Our ambitions must be broad enough to include the aspirations and needs of others for their sakes and for our own. Thank you, William C. Smith and family. Thank you, Mayor, members of government, the finance community, for making this dream come true.
Yeah, it's hard to follow that one. Thank you, Barry, for your years of friendship and your support and remembering those numbers at Sheridan Station. I'm impressed by that. So not only did we make an investment in the park starting in 2007, building that playground and renovating the baseball field, but that old police substation we renovated. And we did that in partnership with Community of Hope. And we created 19 permanent supportive housing units for formerly homeless families. At that time, it was the first one done in the District of Columbia. And it started a partnership with Community of Hope that we'll have here as well, serving the 10 families of permanent supportive housing. But as the mayor mentioned, we couldn't do it with just Community of Hope, William C. Smith. We needed DBH. And so thank you, Dr. Royster, for your capital support that paid for the permanent supportive housing units here, as well as DHS, which also provides the supportive servicing funding that goes to Community of Hope so that the families aren't isolated, but yet get that support that they need to function and thrive. And so we also have to thank the DC Housing Authority and their new executive director. Thank you for being here today. And Ron, hope we can get those units inspected soon so we can get those units occupied. But I thank you for being here. In all fairness to Ron, he's waiting on a C of O from me, which I'll get done on the east side. So not only have we done those accomplishments nearby and renovated Park Vista across the street, but down the street on Mississippi Avenue, Rasan is here to represent the Arc, and we're about to open our third building there, and what's exciting there as well. So, if I may just thank a few more people, Wells Fargo was our equity investor, and they invested in the tax credits that were issued by the Housing Finance Agency, so Chris McGraw and Kevin Hall. And then I want to, of course, thank my ANC support and my chairperson, Mary Cuthberg. So you cannot get zoning, yes. We had to get our zoning approved. You cannot get zoning approved without ANC support. She came to that night meeting, which was late at night, and I appreciated it. She had testified on our behalf, and we wouldn't have gotten it without her participation. But not only that, I needed ANC approval. And at the ANC meeting, people asked, well, why? You know, why William C. Smith? And before I could answer, she answered for me. And what she said was, our company is about to celebrate its 50 years. She didn't say that part. I said that part. But what she said was, William C. Smith has been investing in the District of Columbia and in this neighborhood for the past 50 years. And no one was doing it back then. They were the only company doing it back then. And for that, I'm thankful for that. So I thank you, ANC Commissioner, and I thank Mr. Smith Sr., who started that. I thank Chris Smith, our chairman, and John Ritz, our president, for leading those efforts and continuing to make those investments in the District of Columbia. For the W.C. Smith staff, I'd like to thank Brad from Development, Claire, Allison, Ryan, Janaea, Bill, and Sarah. From W.C. Smith Property Management, who is working hard to lease up. This side is leased up. They're working on this side to be leased up. Pat, Ashana, and Javante for your tireless efforts to get this all done. From WCS Construction, I just want to thank Scott, Chris, Larry, Marquee, Omar, and Sean. So many of you guys have worked nights and weekends to get us here. It's unrecognized, but I appreciate it. Larry, I see you in the back. Thank you. Our design team, SK and I, we wanted to design a space that anyone would want to live in, regardless of income. And I hope you feel that when you walk into this space, that even high-end market rate units would have some of the same finishes, because we want people to feel special, to feel valued. So I thank SK and I thank Determined by Design for the interior design of this space. SK and I was our architect at Sheridan Station, the first LEED Platinum building, private LEED Platinum building in the District of Columbia, and it happened to be affordable housing. This one will be LEED Gold. As they mentioned, we'll have solar panels up roof. There's a panel there that shows the display of energy that's coming in and captured. But all of this is to make the housing healthier, safer, and better quality for the residents that are living here. I'd also like to thank our partner, Ryan Homes. They're building the townhomes up the street. We did the land development, and we did that in partnership with M&T Bank, who's here today. They provided the land development loan that we used to develop the lots, and then Ryan Homes are selling the townhomes. So we'd like to change the Ward 8 homeownership percentage, increase that homeownership percentage, and hopefully we can do that in partnership with them. So really, I'd like to thank everyone in this room, because everyone has played a part, and thank you for your time. And if we can, go ahead and cut the ribbon.